Welcome, welcome. Good morning. Buenos dias. Bonjour. Welcome to Spiritual Matters Thursday here at the Daily Huddle. I'm your host, Dr. Monikah Ogando, with a very, very special guest. Today, we're going to be talking about, is voodoo really just dark magic, black magic? We're going to be talking about the difference between dark magic, black magic, and why that matters. And you'll never believe the guest that I have with us today. See, when I say we're going to be talking about voodoo, you are not thinking the chief of neurosurgery at a renowned hospital. No, you're not. You're not thinking science. You're thinking, quack science. We're not doing that today. I have with us our esteemed Dr. Ernest Barthélemy. Say hi to everybody, Dr. Barthélemy.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for having me today.
I want to get us started with a quote. See, sometimes we have jokes, and I'm not fond of jokes as an intro to our time. But I'm gonna start with a quote. I do like those to kind of center the conversation. This comes from Zora Neale Hurston. Wrote a book called Tell My Horse, Voodoo and Life in Haiti and Jamaica. And the quote is, gods always behave like the people who make them. Oh, we're gonna get into it today. Welcome to the Daily Huddle. I don't know if I ever told you guys that I actually love our drum intro because I'm a secret percussionist at heart. Some people when they mimic instruments, they usually mimic like an air guitar. I mimic air drums. And I know every snare and every 808 in, for example, Easy Lover, which is like by Phil Collins. You know that song? Yes. That song starts with percussion. And let me tell you something, it lifts my percussionist heart. And one of the reasons why I love percussion so much is because percussion mimics the heartbeat of Mother Earth. And as many of our instruments mimic many of nature's sounds. So I want to get us grounded, speaking of nature, in today and in the now moment. So I'm going to start with Tara. Tara, how are you and what are you thankful for?
Did you say Tara?
Tara, yes.
Okay, I wasn't totally sure.
Yes.
I am.
I may have said it with my Dominican accent, but that's what I meant.
I will say again that I am the way I say I am, and I am super excited to be here with, of all things, a neurosurgeon.
Yes, isn't that amazing? I'm happy that you are here as well. Let's see, who else is here? Stacy, I haven't seen you in a month of Sundays. Where are you? And who are you hugging today?
I am where I need to be here with my Daily Huddle family, but geographically, I am here in North Carolina. Our family is together. My daughter just graduated college, and we are all together, and it's wonderful. Who am I going to hug today? I'm going to group hug my entire family today. I don't care how corny they think it is.
That's right. Here's
That's what I'm going to do today. Yes.
I used to say to my daughter when she used to whine a lot, when she's a teenager, she used to whine a lot, and I used to be like, oh my God, here's some cheese for that wine. Oh my Lord. She didn't get it. She was too young to understand how pairing wine and cheese is actually sophisticated.
I love it. I love it.
Rashida, what time is it where you are?
The time is now, right now. I'm driving. I'm not driving. My boyfriend is driving from the doctor's office, but the time is right now.
I love it. I love it. The reason why we use those questions to ground us in the now moment is because I know that it takes commitment and it takes deliberate intention to show up wherever it is that you show up. And sometimes we bring whatever we left in the previous moment to the now moment. So when we center ourselves in this way, we kind of like ground in the present moment. We become present to the possibility that we are now opening, and also understand your own infinity, that you are both here and everywhere else where your thoughts take you. But that's another sermon for another Sunday. Today we're talking about, is voodoo really just about dark magic? And in a twist of delicious irony, we're going to be talking about this African traditional religion, which is one of, it's not the only one, but we're going to talk about this with Dr. Ernest Barthélemy, who I'm introducing. He is the chief of the Division of Neurosurgery and assistant professor of surgery, neurology, and orthopedic surgery at Donwstate. Is it Donwstate University? I don't know if I'm pronouncing
Correct,
it.
Donwstate Health Sciences University.
He received his doctorate of medicine from the Icahn School of Medicine at Mount Sinai, where he also completed his residency in neurological surgery. He completed 2 postgraduate fellowships at the University of California, San Francisco, a clinical fellowship in neurotrauma at Zuckerberg San Francisco General Hospital, and a global surgery fellowship at the Center for Health Equity in Surgery and Anesthesia. And as if that weren't enough, he's training the next generation of neurologists and surgeons, lending his global professional experience to enhance downstate neurology and surgery programs by building new initiatives in global neuroscience and surgery. He is participating in clinical and academic mentoring of residents in neurology and surgery and orthopedics, while ensuring that the highest quality of neurological and neurosurgical services are available to the largest and most diverse possible patient population. You know, we're fans of the highest good for the highest number in the Daily Huddle. So welcome, Dr. Barthélemy. I'm so happy that you're here with us. I'm
so happy to be here with you. Thanks for inviting me.
Absolutely. Look at him with his white lab coat and everything. He's ready. He's going to perform surgery on this discussion.
You're the man.
How is it that we came to be? Tell us, like in the brief Cliff Note version of how is it that somebody who dabbles on a daily basis in science, in medicine, you know, we kind of see it as though those two things are unrelated and somehow contradictory. How is it that you are also a voodoo practitioner? How did you come to that?
Yeah, well, I came to Vodou initially through my past as a professional Afro-Cuban subspecialized dancer. And I had a long career in that space. And, you know, life took me through spaces that propelled me into medicine. And one day I was a medical student in an operating room, and a piece of the skull came off, and I saw the pulsating brain dancing with the rhythm of the heart. And I said, that is infinite intelligence. So I couldn't imagine doing anything else as a physician if I knew someone got to be that in touch with the deepest secret of the universe.
Wow, that's amazing. How dance can open up this world of possibility and of exactitude, because that's the thing about dance as well, just as medicine and just as religion, that there's places where we dance and where it flows and it seems kind of like ethereal, and then there are some that is like exactitude and rigorous and meticulous, and that's the part that makes the flow look so magical. And I love how those two things dance together. What are some of the common misconceptions that people have about voodoo that you constantly have to, when somebody mentions it, they bring you the stereotypes or the tropes first, and we have to kind of divest that before we can get into a substantive conversation around it?
Yeah. Well, most people's education about Vodou, you know, first of all, teaches them the term voodoo, and they learn it from Hollywood. That's you know, that's where they get their education about voodoo. So between Hollywood as their principal source, and you know, that communicates fear, threat, evil, darkness, you know, a world of witches and warlocks, a world that ironically borrows a lot of witchcraft traditions from Europe that have then been sort of thrust into the imagination or imaginary about what Vodou is. That's what people think Vodou is. So, there is that, huge lack of education, the fear about it, and then certainly there's racism deeply embedded in it, which can open up a whole other conversation. So lots of deep misconceptions. It is certainly none of that and so much that is not that.
Right. I think one of the things that I had to particularly personally grapple with is the connection between the ancestral realm and ritual in the present realm, and how that relates to not just Vodou, although that's very present in Vodou, but just in general, African traditional religions, has a deep emphasis on community, and not just community like the people that you live in the neighborhood and your state and your city, but the folks that that are coming up behind you, and the folks for whom you're coming up behind as well. So this idea of ancestral reverence, not worship, people, not worship, but ancestral reverence is deeply embedded in those traditions as well. And talk to me a little bit about the ritual aspect of it, because I see a lot of parallels. For example, I grew up Catholic, and there are a lot of things that are that I learned in the Catholic religion that when I started studying Vodou, I was like, oh, that's where these priests got it from.
That's great. In terms of Vodou ritual and this Catholic element, and I was raised Catholic as well. Right, as were many, probably most people from our island, right? And Vodou, Haitian Vodou, okay, which I distinguish from Vodou in Benin, or some of the other informing sources of Vodou in West and Central Africa, evolved at a time when to be openly practicing a spiritual tradition from Africa was a life-threatening act, because we're talking about people who were enslaved, who were not viewed as people, first of all, and in the course of slavery were forced to follow a particular regime from a colonial power, whether that was France in the case of Haiti or Spain, and to follow the ritual life and ritual world brought by those European powers, which is what Catholicism gave us. And so what happens with Vodou, as well as with Regla de Ocha, or the Lukumi tradition, which is commonly called Santeria, for this reason, it's given that derogatory term Santeria, is you have this syncretism happening. Syncretism, the most superficial level of which is a disguise, saying, okay, we're going to practice our heritage and we're going to mask it in this dominant culture to protect ourselves from the threat of being found out for, the risk of being authentic to our own tradition. So we're going to pretend we're practicing Catholicism, but actually what we're going to be doing is being faithful to our heritage, our roots, our community. And so in Vodou ritual, there are very, very, very lengthy prayers and recitations that mirror a lot of existing Catholic ritual. And it's only with a very deep listening and understanding of the context and what's going on, and understanding the history of how we got here, how this was a survival mechanism that enabled formerly enslaved people to protect historical culture and ultimately to overthrow their enslavers, right? That all comes through as you listen and understand the very sophisticated rituals of Vodou. The last thing I'll say on this is these enslaved people didn't come from one African ethnic group. They came from so many, throughout West and Central Africa and beyond, actually even East and South. And so in Vodou, what you have is really a New World African tradition that marries the struggle of many different people who spoke different languages and had different histories, but ultimately synergized their different cultural contributions, as well as reviving and respecting the indigenous traditions that were there in their new home, and then creating a common cosmology from that. So Haitian Vodou is very much a newer world cosmology.
Yeah. What I love about what you're sharing here, Dr. Barthélemy, is that I think sometimes people conveniently, because it's painful to look at, forget that, just like the quote says from Zora Neale Hurston, gods behave like the people who made them, that forget that our religious traditions and our spiritual practices grow out of the human experience. And it's a symbiotic relationship in that our then spiritual experiences inform the ways we act and behave with each other and with ourselves in the human realm. And the human realm informs what we make up about the spiritual realm, and vice versa. It just keeps going. And so, of course, the first nation to overthrow slavery, and using their spiritual practices to do so, because they were not militaristically superior, they did not have the numbers. And so when they overthrew their colonizers and their oppressors, whatever you use to do that is going to be villainized. Whether that's your spiritual religion or whatever, we're going to just delegate it to, this is bad, this is evil, and you're going against God if you do this thing. God being the white man, but they don't tell you that.
That's right. But Boukman told us that. Boukman, the hero of the Haitian Revolution, he reminded us that no God, who is what God is in the universe, would ever enslave a people like this. So let's pray that our God, a God of righteousness, empowers us to overthrow these enslavers, these colonists.
Yeah.
And Haiti is still paying a price for that. But indeed, in the Vodou tradition, to your prior question of ritual, when we start every ritual with acknowledgement of the four corners of the universe, that is an indigenous tradition. And when we reclaimed that land and gave it back an indigenous name, Haiti, from Taino Arawak, meaning mountainous land, that's exactly what we were immortalizing, was the heritage of our indigenous sisters and brothers who were there before Columbus landed.
That's exactly right. So would you call Catholicism polytheistic tradition?
Would I call Catholicism polytheistic? I would say that the way polytheism is defined by the people who created the term polytheism, Catholicism checks that box.
Okay.
Absolutely. I would say that from the standpoint of, let's say, authentic Catholics, they don't see that, right? And recently, when I was educating my son about Vodou, and he gave me the term polytheism, we had a long sit down, and I had to explain to him, I want you to learn that term very well and understand how it's being used by the people who are teaching you. Those people know nothing about Vodou, and they don't understand that what we have is a monotheistic tradition.
Yeah.
And so we had
that's why I asked, because if you ask a Catholic, or a Christian, or a Muslim, or a Jew, if they have a polytheistic tradition, they would say absolutely not.
Right.
But they have the same characteristics and the same kind of like branches that they accuse other traditions of being polytheistic. The same thing.
Right.
Catholicism has, this saint is over this and that saint is over that, and this one has a day. I remember that July 27th is Santa Monica Day, because my name is Monica, so I wanted to know when Santa Monica Day was, right?
That's right.
And so it's the same deal, that it's like there's this overarching spiritual deity, or what is it? Identity. And then there are different ways in which that spiritual identity expresses itself. It's not that there are multiple gods. It's that there are multiple ways in which the one God expresses itself. And even calling God it, for some people, is blasphemy.
That's right.
Because they still associate it with being masculine and not feminine. Don't even acknowledge the feminine aspect of that. And what I really appreciate about Vodou is this egalitarian thing, where it's like we acknowledge both the light and the darkness, both the masculine and the feminine, both the above and the below. They both, you can't have one without the other. It's kind of like the yin yang symbol. There's a little bit of white inside of the blackness, and there's a little bit of black inside of the whiteness, and they work together. I love that, because it's actually what is happening. It feels like to deny that is to deny reality. What would you say about that?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. There is, one of the paradoxes for me about Vodou is that on the one hand, there is such an extraordinary universality in Vodou, and a tolerance, a deep tolerance. I often say to some of my family members, with whom, we are mutually transparent about our beliefs, okay, and practices. And I would tell them, it is a Christian or Catholic rule that makes it problematic for a Vodouist to come into a church as a Vodouist, or to acknowledge anything outside of what's going on. I want you to know that a Vodouist will always welcome a Christian or a Catholic into their space, right? Yeah. There is a tremendous tolerance and an understanding and appreciation of the universality of faith and spirituality, and acknowledging there is one high, infinite being, intelligence, deity, etc. I reject the term gods and deities for the Loi and spiritual entities in Vodou. Divinity is a term that I've embraced. I refer to them as divinities. And this shows up in so many comparable faiths. And the last thing I'll say here, I had a great conversation with a late neurosurgeon, a pediatric neurosurgeon from India, who had been traveling to Haiti for many years to do work there. And for him, he said it was a religious experience. And I asked him about Vodou, and he quickly said, "Oh, no, not about that. More of what we talked about at the beginning. This is, not about black magic," or whatever the term was that he learned about it. And I said, "Oh, no, well," I said, "Vodou is very much like Hinduism." And he was shocked. He said, "What?" He had no, because he and his wife, who was a neuroradiologist, were both very devout practitioners of Hinduism. And I said, "Yeah, it is." And he said, "I don't understand." And we had a conversation, and I shared with him, some of the precepts as I had come to understand them of Vodou. And I said, "So what do you think of that?" And he said, "It's just like Hinduism." And that's how we ended that conversation.
Yeah. I think the part also that people sometimes are hesitant to speak about, just as I started talking about the Haitian independence and overthrowing slavery, is the inherent anti-Blackness that happens in that conversation. You alluded to that a little bit earlier. But I also want to point out that this anti-Blackness isn't just on the part of white people. It's like it's all over. There are some Black people who are anti-Black in that.
Oh, absolutely.
Who think that these traditions that are native to African cultures, they too have fallen for the okie doke, thinking that this is the work of the devil and this and the third. And sometimes we see it even in families where it's like, I'm always mistrustful of a philosophy or a tradition that isn't big enough to tolerate another tradition. Doesn't have to agree with it or understand, but if you can't even tolerate it, you're confessing your own smallness.
Yeah, I've been fortunate enough to to come to understand the extensive brainwashing that has occurred over the years and over the centuries in Haiti and amongst Haitian people, and the challenge before us in really coming to terms with who we are. This journey started for me intellectually. I spoke to my artistic journey, which was important, right? I was raised Catholic. My mother took me to an African dance class that she took at her college when I was a teenager. And I had this odd experience of, I feel like there's something for us here, but I had never been exposed to this before. And that stayed with me. When I went to NYU to do my undergraduate studies, I was at the Icahn School of Individualized Study. And it struck me as I started exploring this spiritual and cosmological world that it couldn't possibly be the case that an entire nation or an entire ethnic group of people could be diabolical. Struck me that is not the nature of human beings. How could that be possible? And the reason I came to this is reflecting on the history of Haiti as I understood it. All of what Vodou was the entirety of the spiritual, religious, and cosmological realm that these people who were then enslaved had. There wasn't Christianity or Catholicism there. So there must have been goodness, righteousness, etc. Everything we learned in the adopted culture of Catholicism to hold high. I reasoned philosophically, this had to exist in Vodou. How come I never learned about it? And that's what started to inspire my curiosity. And I realized, oh, this is racism. This is one of the insidious forms of racism that we actually often hold against ourselves. We learn to dislike, push away, or hate everything that comes from Africa and praise, elevate, venerate everything that comes from Europe. In Haiti, that looks like don't speak Haitian Creole, speak French. Don't be darker skinned, be lighter skinned. Don't practice Vodou, practice Christianity, Catholicism, etc. Things like this. And when I had the opportunity to see it for what it was, I started to understand myself newly, and that really allowed me to start understanding Vodou as a celebration of what it is to be Black, what it is to be Haitian, what it is to be African. I mean, that's really what Vodou means to me.
Yeah, I love that it exists inside of an ecosystem, that it's not this disparate thing. And this is one of the things that I always walk away with comparative religions, is that they're not silos. These things exist in community, they exist in sociology, they exist in history, and they exist in the human experience. I have hogged you long enough. I'm going to open it up for questions in the last 90 seconds that we have. Sorrel, you had your hand up.
Dr. Barthélemy, thank you for being here. When I extended the invitation to you and said, man, it's Haitian Heritage Month. I cannot think of a more fitting time for you to be here, to be having this conversation. So I'm immensely grateful. And I want to ask you this question. Speak to us for just 2 seconds about the emotional connection you've created for yourself as a Vodou practitioner, the divinities.
The emotional connection I've created has been a source of inspiration, of enlightenment. It has given me a new way to understand and appreciate humanity, to appreciate others. If this will help, I'll offer a brief anecdote. I had a patient, I was going into surgery. The patient saw that I was wearing a necklace from an African divinity that she recognized. And she said to me, I was afraid to go into surgery until this moment, but now I know that, and she named a divinity from the Yoruba tradition in Cuba. She said, I know Obatala is with you. So I have no fear about this surgery anymore. And it was a very magical moment for both of us. And I sailed through that surgery.
That's fantastic. That is fantastic. Gio, you had something?
Yeah. Yeah. This is like the coolest conversation in the planet. Like this is that one of those few times that, man, you got to stay another half hour, man, or maybe I kind of steal you for another 3 hours or a whole day lunch. Where do you live? Thank you so much for being here, Dr. Ernest. You're fascinating. Your life is fascinating. Your vulnerability is fascinating. Your commitment to science is fascinating. I am more of a guy who studies God by the intricacies of science, not quite by the traditions of the human the human understanding of the possibility that God is doesn't really drive me, but you connect both so well. It is beautiful, it's wonderful. And unfortunately, I have been and I say unfortunately, and I really mean it, I have been introduced Vodou by the Hollywood people, and what a terrible introduction. You're a much better one. Thank you for being someone who practices that. I just love you. I'm fascinated by you. And please come back, Sorrel. Please hijack him again. And I don't have a question because time is over. But I really wanted to acknowledge your presence here. Thank you for being here.
Got it. Thank you. Thanks so much, you.
Chase, you got something?
Real quick, Grand Day, Doctor, I knew I was sitting across from greatness when I met you. Your aura was amazing. We had a chance to have a meal the other day, so everything was great. Thank you, Sorrel, for that. This is definitely a fascinating conversation, and I just wanted to ask quickly, because this just blew my mind in 6 different ways, so now I have to know more about all of this. Is there a book that you would recommend that is really, that will get me deeply rooted into this or more understanding of this whole word that I saw a completely different way until today?
In a word, no. And there are many books, and I would say every book I've read had some truths sprinkled throughout. And our traditions are primarily oral, and the way to really learn is to find teachers in the communities of Vodou and our African traditions and learn experientially. And that's how we really learn.
All right, well, we'll have to go to dinner a few more times then. It was great to see you, and I'll reach out to you. Let's just go directly to the source. Nice to see you. Thank you so much.
That's awesome. We have run out of time. I know we had 2 more folks with their hands up. If you put something on the chat, I'll get to it. But I really wanted to honor everybody's time. I appreciate you, Dr. Barthélemy, for coming with us and opening this up. We're gonna have to, I told you, we're gonna have a prequel, a sequel, and a part 2, and a part 4, and a part 5. It's gonna be like the new Rocky series up in here. I'm fond of series. So because these conversations are so deep and there's so much substance to explore and to discuss and to ask questions about and so forth. So please come back. We would love to have you. I love the little subtle flex that Chase did. You know, I went to dinner with him already, so yeah, I'll let you have him for now, for half an hour. I love it.
Dr. Monikah, if I may throw one book out that just came to mind that I think is worth reading. The book is called African Cosmology of the Bantu Congo by Kimbwandende Fukiao. That was a very important book for me. I read it many years ago. That's a worthwhile book to read.
Say the title again. We won't be able to, I don't know how to spell that, the author, but say the title again.
African Cosmology of the Bantu Congo.
African Cosmology of the Bantu Congo.
The author's last name, late author, is Fukiao, F-U-Kiau, I believe is how that is spelled. Right. Yeah, that's a great book to read.
I'm definitely gonna get that. All right. Thank you, everybody, for being with us today. Remember to give generously, love obnoxiously, laugh obnoxiously, like cacaw. I want you to cacaw and giggle when you laugh. I want you to sleep more, get at least 7 hours of sleep, stress less, move your body, dance, exercise, do some lunges, get up, move around, shake yourself. One of the things that I learned from having my daughter's dogs here with us for this 6 weeks is that they use their bodies to navigate the physical world, and this is how they shake off stress. They really literally shake it off. They literally shake off trauma and stress and pain and so forth. So I want you to do that as well. Practice that. And of course, check yourself before you wreck yourself. Audit your assumptions ask yourself, where did I get that from and how do I know that it is true? So that you can go down the rabbit holes of your own intelligence and be really solid in your own convictions, not because they are assumptions. We love you. We celebrate you. Thank you, Dr. Barthélemy. Thank you, Sorel, for introducing us. Have a great day, everybody.
Have a great day. Thank you.
Doc. Thank you. Thank you.
Beautiful day, everybody.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
One love, guys. One love.
One love, one love.